What's going on, guys? You know, Manscaped is one of the sponsors of the Real Bodybuilding Podcast, and they have everything. I've been using their Lawnmower 4.0 package for a long time now, and it's done nothing but good things for me. I also have the travel bag that comes with it, the nose trimmer, and all that other stuff. But they have some new stuff that they've sent me. I don't know if it's new, but it's new that it's been sent to me that I want to try out, and I just want to show you guys. So they got this lip balm that obviously good in the wintertime for chapped lips. They got some deodorant, smells really good. Body spray also smells really good, and a couple things I've been using for a little while now. So they got the shampoo and conditioner. Obviously I don't have hair, but I use it for my beard. I don't know, I just like my beard to be a little bit softer after a shower. I don't like using soap on it because it just gets rougher, right? And then the body wash smells awesome. I went through this in no time. This is probably my third container of it. So listen, it's a one-stop shop for men's hygiene. If you're a dude and you like to smell good, you make sure your junk smells good, all that. Manscaped.com/RBP, get 20% off plus free shipping. Make sure you get the crop preserver and the ball deodorant. Also, you always want to make sure shit's fresh for your girl, man. So get there, make sure your hygiene is straight. Use code RBP or manscaped.com/RBP. Get the 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you, guys. All right, so this, welcome to the Real Bodybuilding Podcast. This was supposed to be serious, but with Ross here, I don't know how serious it's going to be. So we're just going to start with the conversation that we've already started with. Ross was asking me, okay, so today's podcast was supposed to be about business and bodybuilding, and I have two business owners here. Ross owns Flavor Gang and Gaines Bakery, and if there's is there any other businesses, or is those two primarily?
Yeah, I own like three more. Yeah.
Okay, and he's a pro bodybuilder, and Seth is a former retired pro, and also obviously everybody knows he owns Axe and Sledge, and we are just getting Terrance to join in now. Terrance is the two-time Arnold Classic champion, obviously, and Terrance, how are you?
Hey, how you doing today, man?
So I was just explaining to the audience how this was supposed to be a serious podcast, but we have Ross here, so it's hard to be. Terrance, I don't know if you know Ross and Seth. Ross and Seth, that's Terrance.
Yeah. Hey, I can't see you guys. One second.
So we got Terrance here, kind of from the current athlete perspective, at the top of the game in his genre. So I wanted to kind of have some different perspectives on business and bodybuilding, but. Ross asked Seth an important question because we were talking about OnlyFans, and Ross, you want to ask Seth what you?
Well, let me ask the whole question.
Okay, let's start over.
So the bro chat is amazing, and usually it's about jerking off and showing each other's buttholes. So when Fouad was like, "Hey, I want you to be on a business podcast," my first thought was, is this going to be about how to make money jerking off and cleaning each other's buttholes? And then so Seth was like, I think
they already have those.
Yeah.
They exist.
So Seth, why don't you answer the question? How many people have
my reply to this was that there was already things out there. And I was like, I make a couple $100,000 a month just showing my butthole on OnlyFans. And nope, never see my face. You don't see the hands. You just see a butthole every
Nobody
day.
knows it's you, but it's you.
And there's only probably three people that have seen my butthole. My brother being one of them, so he's not subscribed.
Is that accurate? Only 3 people have seen your butthole?
I mean, a good close look to be like, that's Seth's butthole.
No, I don't mean like an inspection, but like how many people in your life have seen your butthole, you think?
The hole itself.
Ross, this is your fault, but Terrance, this is Ross's fault. This was supposed to be a serious podcast, and it will be.
Okay.
I had a thing for mooning people and having fun when I was a kid.
So funny. A whole bunch of people have probably
seen my butt, but the hole is a whole different. I never let's spread the cheeks and show them the goods. No.
Anyways, Terrance, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. Great. Just made it back into town from Montana last night. Just getting my day started.
How was that? I saw some pictures. You went out to Flag Nor Fail's facility.
Yeah. Rob and Dana decided to bring on a couple athletes for the first time ever in the company, and it was an awesome time.
Didn't they sell their gym?
You say what?
Didn't they sell their gym?
The gym in Pennsylvania, yeah. They live in Montana.
Okay.
What is going on here?
Yeah, a lot of people rob shows. It's because we're more than just, athletes, photographers, creative people. Anton over here on the left. Yeah, so most of us do more than just lift weights. So he brought us all out. We got content. We did cool stuff and got to know each other.
You're at a fucking you're at a rodeo.
Yeah, that was Dana wants to get into rodeos like next year, I think she said.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That didn't work too well, eh?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So they have a really
Canadians up there. Obviously Frank and Emerson. Yeah.
They have a really cool facility up there. They're doing cool things. So it's nice to see you guys. Nice to see them bringing on athletes and kind of expanding the brand that way.
For sure.
So the reason I got you guys together was not talk about buttholes. The reason I got you guys together was talk about business, because Terrance has been messaging me for, a little bit now. We've been trying to lock the date down for this thing, and I've been a flake on it. And then he was dieting for the Arnold. And then so we're trying to finally get this thing locked in, because Terrance thought it was important to discuss how to make money in bodybuilding and how to make money after bodybuilding. And I thought, instead of me and Terrance just talking about it, I'd bring on Ross and Seth as two business owners themselves, who are also, Ross is 7 weeks out from the Indy Pro, so he's currently in, and Seth is retired, but still looks like he could compete tomorrow.
I'm in shape. I work hard.
So I thought we could have a good discussion. So, Terrance, I thought we'd start off by kind of expressing to people where we started before we made any money, like at the beginning. Like, where did you work? Where did you work when you were trying to come up? I thought maybe that'd be a good place to start, so people know, hey, how did these guys make money when they were how did they compete when they were broke ass, and where did they work while they were doing that?
That's a good start point. Yeah. I started bodybuilding like the first year I joined the military. I was about 18 years old, and I worked as a avionics technician, so I worked on planes and whatnot. Everyone can Google, E2, E3, E4 paychecks. You guys can see how much I made if you guys are interested in that. It wasn't a whole lot, but basically the kind of the way I got through, financing, competing was I just didn't waste money on anything, anything frivolous, anything that didn't help me get towards my goals. I didn't have like the newest smartphone. I had one of the kick flips when the iPhone 4 was out. I still had like a flip phone, basically. I didn't have any new shoes, new clothes. I didn't have even internet in my house. I would go to Starbucks to do my classes and stuff. So,
Sorry, Terrance, can I ask you, does anybody here, if you want to divulge any information, it's up to you, but can I ask what you might have been making at that time, ballpark, just so people know like how you were stringing it all together?
I can look it up. I do not remember. I'd get back to you. Let me just go.
All right. Well, don't worry, but it's not that important. I'm just curious if it was like 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year, 40 grand a year. Like, I don't know, like
about 30-ish, but
okay.
There's some conversions because obviously the military gets some benefits that other people don't get, but it's maybe around 30-ish or so. The first few years, maybe tops 40. 40.
Okay. So military was your main thing. Now, as working in the military, obviously eating your meals and all that didn't affect, like, your job didn't affect your bodybuilding, did it? Or did you have to manage that somehow as well?
It wasn't any harder than anyone else with a job, I went to work at 6:45, got off at 3, worked in a building. We had a lunch break, which was about an hour, and then people had smoke breaks. So I just said, hey, I'm going to take a mini lunch break, and I would eat when people went out to smoke. So that's the kind of way I finessed it,
Yeah. Seth, when you were coming up, what was something you did at the beginning, like when you were still broke, trying to like do your first couple shows or whatever?
Well, I mean, like Terrance said, the one thing that people have to do is just understand how to manage their money. You got to be realistic with how much money you make and how much everything costs. So, I mean, right out of school, when I was in college, I was at the cafeteria. I stole food from there. You take your Tupperware containers in, load everything up.
Wait a
put 'em
minute,
in
you
your
stole
bag,
food
go
from the
home and eat it.
like I didn't know this rule. How did this work?
Oh man, like so at the cafeteria, they'd have eggs, tuna, rice, and like if you were lucky, they had chicken like at a certain point in the day.
Yeah.
So whenever you went in for lunch or dinner, you just had your because you bought a meal plan, part of your program that you had. And then I'd be like, well, I'm gonna take all the rice. I'm gonna take rice every day from there. And then if I wanted tuna, I'd put tuna in there with my rice and take it all and load it up and leave. I'd eat my meal and then load it up and leave. Now there's a little bit of sodium in it, so I was a little roly-poly, but that made it easy in college. And then whenever you get out into the real world, I had my first daughter, Adeline, when we were in college. So I mean, I worked for my dad. I worked at the one bar. So
can you tell us, like, I mean, it's even harder for you than Terrance because you had a daughter, so that's obviously an added pressure. But can you tell us what was approximate yearly wage at that time when you got out of college?
I graduated college and went to work as a safety professional, OSHA, EPA, DOT regulations for Cocos Construction, and my yearly salary was $41,000. So I made 41 grand, and then I had my wife at the time and my daughter. So I just managed it all from there. And then,
how far does 41 grand go with a daughter trying to bodybuild? Like, you're not buying Jordans, you're not buying any of that shit. Are you like just bare minimum and eating still tuna and rice, or like, what's life?
I was bare minimum broke as fuck because, you got to pay for everybody in the house because you're not the only one eating. And we all know, like, I mean, I think the one year I did my taxes, whenever I started buying higher quality food, bro, I spent like fucking $36,000 just on grocery food.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those types of things, whenever you get into it. But at the time, I was just paycheck to paycheck living on a dream, wanting to turn pro. 2008, I remember watching Peter Putnam win the light heavyweights at nationals. And that's whenever I made a decision. I'm like, I'm going hard. I'm going to dedicate myself and go and see if I can turn pro in 2009. And fortunately I did, and it worked out.
Ross, how old are you now?
31.
Did you start, when did your business Flavor Gang start?
Well, we bifurcated, that means this split the Gaines Bakery into Flavor Gang last year.
Oh, okay.
We had the Gaines Bakery since like 2019.
Okay, so how old were you when you decided to start bodybuilding, like take it seriously?
So I was 22 when I decided I want to bodybuild. I didn't compete till 25.
Okay.
But at 22, I opened up my own business.
Wow.
So a little different, start than Seth.
Yeah.
But
what was that business?
In traveling personal training business. So I'd seek out like C-suite executives, doctors, travel to their house, train them at their home, and then I slowly got into making their food.
Was there ever any
like, I'm going right after the money? Fuck them all.
I'm not fucking around at the gym for $30 an hour. I'm charging $100, $150 an hour, and I'm gonna sell the shit out of myself and sell my services. And I think, without getting off on a tangent, I think this generation has lost a lot of intrinsic values to sell themselves. They don't hustle, they don't grind, and they don't know how to analyze competition. That's like the step one for business is who's doing what, figure out what they're doing wrong, or figure out what you can do better and capitalize on that. So that's what I did. I analyzed all the trainers, figured out what the fuck they were doing. They don't know what they're doing. I was the complete opposite, and I'd sell the shit out of myself. I did that for 3 years, and then I met my wife. We started dating. We got fired together because I actually started training I started to work full time for one of my clients, and that client was a fucking billionaire. So she hired me to be her assistant. Long story short, but we got fired together, and then that's when we decided to move from from Maryland to Texas and open up the Gaines Bakery, and that's sort of how it started.
Was there ever any funny business at those people's houses?
No, everything was very
You didn't ask like for extra tips and shit?
No, but this one lady who was an amazing client, she was a MILF. Okay. And the funny story is, on the phone, she sounded like she was a cat woman, a smoker, and 400 pounds. So I'm going into this, random person's house expecting this, like, hello, train me. Yeah. Open the door, and she is a smoke show. Blonde bombshell, huge tits. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So the funny thing about this is that we train in the basement at like 5 a.m, and I just destroy her. It's extremely professional.
Yeah.
But she's like moaning like she's getting rammed the whole time. Her husband's upstairs, like, and that's probably the extent of like
how bad it got. Yeah.
Funny business.
So, okay, but more seriously, obviously like you said, you analyzed it and you decided to go that route. And like Seth said, you went where the money was. How lucrative was that at 22 years old? Like, what's a ballpark? Like, what could somebody make in that field doing what you were doing?
Well, the thing is, you're kind of fixated on your time. So you can only charge, if you have like 6 to 8 clients a day, that's 6 hours plus travel time. You're looking at a 10-hour day. You can only make so much. So I think I was probably making anywhere from like 75 to 85 grand doing that. A lot of it cash.
Yeah.
And I've never worried about money because I'm extremely frugal and smart. Well, like Seth and Terrance were saying. So everything was strategic. I'd coupon like crazy for bodybuilding foods. I would figure out what's that?
So yeah, that's smart. I mean, a lot of people don't do the couponing. You can do Groupons. They have some now with Acorn.
Yeah.
You can if you order something on Acorn, like Uber Eats or anything, you get like kickback and you can put into savings. I don't think a lot of guys think of stuff like that.
Here's a tip too: if you go to the grocery store, you can actually buy cases of food.
Yeah, you can buy cases of chicken and stuff.
Yeah, and they don't advertise that because they don't want to you lose their stock.
Yeah.
I want 50 pounds of chicken or 50 pounds of sweet potato.
Yeah.
One thing you brought up, like I shopped at multiple different grocery stores for my food. You know what I mean? Like, every Sunday or every Wednesday, you'd get like Sunday or Wednesday, I can't remember what it was where we lived. You'd get like newspaper articles of like who had deals where at what grocery stores. So if chicken was on sale for $1.69 somewhere, I'm like, chicken for the month.
Yep.
But at that point, you got to make sure you have enough money in your account to buy chicken for the month and just be able to be resourceful and be smart with your money and not be like, well, I really wanted to do this. And then that fucks your chicken order up for the month, because I knew somewhere throughout the month, I was going to find chicken for $1.99 or less per pound.
That's crazy. I never did any of that. I used to, well, I shouldn't say any of that. It's not that I didn't do coupons. I used to go to the butcher. I knew a butcher that used to have chicken and he would sell like 20-pound bags at a time. And it was the larger chicken breasts that you could tell were older and they weren't going to taste as good. But I was like, I couldn't go wrong for the price compared to grocery store chicken. But Terrance, I know you've been pretty frugal too, because I know we did our podcast way back, the original one we did, and you were driving like a smaller car and you didn't care. And you were very like, you watched your money. So how is that something that's just you've come up with, or is it just because it was demanded of you at that time? Like, are you still frugal now, or was it just a situational thing?
A little bit of both. I mean, I was raised, with a single mom. She's still super, frugal. Like, right now she's working with some super old phone. I just brought her on as my assistant. Hired her, and she gets down here today. I'm gonna buy her, a new iPhone so she can get with the times. But I was just raised that way. She had, she struggled. She took care of me, my grandmother, and that's kind of what was instilled in me. So when I got older, I just kind of continued that, with bodybuilding,
Ross, now that you have, so you said you've been frugal from the very beginning. So making $75,000 to $85,000 a year as a 22-year-old is really good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, especially if like you don't have any kids. Did you have kids at that time or no?
No, I have no kids. I had almost.
So where did the smart money handling come from then? At 22, having that much money, like where did that come from for you?
It is in my blood, man. I've got so much Jewish in my blood.
Dude, you can't say that. I don't think you can say that.
If you can say that if you're Jewish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
It's in my DNA. I can't I have a real good ability to figure out what I need.
Ross, move forward a bit so I can hear you. It's like it sounds a little hollow.
Sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I said I have an ability to figure out what I need and what I want, like the difference.
Yeah.
And sort of separating out logic versus emotion. So, I mean, I still drive a used Camry. I barely drive, so I don't need a fancy car. I drive like a mile a day.
I don't know what that is. I'm so jealous of people like that. You know, Paul, like, no, seriously, Paul's like that. Paul, like, you know, he has money, he's doing well, but he just drives the same, you know, Ford Explorer he's had for like the last couple of years. He doesn't really care.
The opposite. There's nothing wrong with, you know, liking material things at all.
Yeah.
It's just different. It's just a different mindset.
No, I don't feel bad about liking material things. I just wish I was smarter with my money and I just throw it away. So like I know Seth is probably somewhere between us, because I know Seth has his trucks and shit. So I know
spend money. Like I need to spend this goddamn money.
Seth, how are you? You were
no, I mean, big thing for me was like, you know, as you, I think most younger people wondering what to do with their money, just be smart with your money. What does that mean? Talk to yourself before you make a decision and decide, is this a good idea to do? What are my goals in life? Planning all these things. One thing for me with multiple kids, it's always been like, I used to always budget my money when I went to the grocery store. Like I was very big on that. I was very big on what I needed for the kids' lunches, what I needed for me, and that was it. And now it's not that it's much more, but I'd always go with a plan. Like I had this much money to spend and this. Now I go to the grocery store and get everything that I need, and I don't have to think. My pantry is full of everything that makes my life convenient. And sometimes convenience means a higher price for certain items. So, I mean, the first step for me was whenever I didn't have to think about money at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It was like my big first step. And now, like, I get to eat filet mignon once a week. Like, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is awesome. So I think now, like, moving into this position where I do very well for myself, I bought materialistic things. I've done things that, you know, I have my TRX and I get excited about it and I love it. But, you know, what I've noticed is like I lose the luster of them. The materialistic things lose their luster. And I'm like, they don't hold too much value to me. So as I continue like on my personal journey of making money and building businesses, working with the kids over at gymnastics, I'm starting to find out that like I really like being at home with my family. So like having a nice house and a nice place to come home to spend my downtime is becoming like something that I'm like that's what I'm attracted to. So yeah. It's those house and all those things, are they materialistic? Yeah, but I think that it's where you want to spend your money. And like if people like dressing a certain way and looking fly as fuck, spend your money there. You like a nice house? Buy a nice house. You want nice cars? Buy nice cars. But just be smart with your money. Don't be a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
That's like, and it's easy to say those things, but you know, I do dumb shit too. You know, sometimes I'll be like, this is a good idea. 2 weeks later, I'm like, that was a bad idea. Let's
Ross,
not do that again.
Ross, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about this last night, and you know, we're very fortunate for the success we have. And I think Seth was maybe alluding to this a little bit. You get desensitized to certain things. Like his biggest revelation was the time he could go to the grocery store and buy whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Well, that feeling goes away. And then you buy your nice car, that feeling goes away.
Yep.
You know? So if anyone's like sort of on this pursuit of success and, you know, riches and everything, try to focus what's important to you on things that you don't get desensitized to, like family, things that, you know, you can't really put a price tag on, because that will always give you that never ending joy.
Well, I want to get away from material things, but I want to just touch on one thing before we do is, like Seth was talking about his house, and Ross is talking about things that you don't get desensitized to. So the thing I that's such a good point from you, Ross, because I've always tried to, like, as I was coming up, I was like, I'll be successful when I have a nice car. I'll be successful when I have a nice house. I'll be successful when I have X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And then you get those things and you're like, oh, I'm not successful. But it's because what you're saying is you're desensitized to it. And it doesn't mean as much as you thought it would mean as you were coming up.
And
but
I also think
the reason, sorry, Seth, I was going to say the reason I like Seth's example though, is because his value comes from his family, and having a nice home where your family is kind of ties the two together.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
and
I think like the biggest me, like trying to be successful is what I quantify success is being able to provide for my family. That's the whole reason. I don't really care about having a whole bunch of nice things, but if I can retire my mom, if I can have my friends be, you know, in a good spot, then I'm happy.
Seth, you're going to say something?
yeah. No, I was saying, and what you know, what do you define success by? Everybody has that, like, what is success? And everybody's answer could be different because we all came in different scenarios, different upbringings, all these things. But as you continue to go through life, I believe that like things change, like your mind changes, your perspective changes, your outlook on life changes. Like, you know, Terrance is in the thick of literally beating the shit out of everybody in the most difficult, intense division in bodybuilding today. You know, chasing greatness is literally occurring. So his priorities are in a different position than someone that's like myself or you, Fouad, who's retired right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think like the definition of success can kind of change because I'm learning that like make millions of dollars, your company does great, everything's wonderful, but then you still have things in your day that can beat you up. You're not, you know, invincible. You still have these challenges that you face. The further you go, like I could imagine me and whenever I'm competing versus how Terrance is competing, he's literally like, I'm going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
Like literally the best in the world at something.
Yeah.
That is something that has this crazy feeling. So I don't think the daily challenges change, but, and so does your outlook on life and perspective and what you want to do. Because right now I have no desire to compete, but I do still have goals.
Yeah. Well, to add to that,
aspirations.
To add to that, because Terrance just said, like, my success for me is to be able to provide for my family. I guess what I want to ask you, Terrance, because this is like, it's actually happening in real time. So the thing that Seth is talking about is that moving target. When you can provide for your family, that's not really going to be success, because then you're going to be like, okay, now I've provided for them. What's next? So you never really, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is you never, it depends on your personality, I guess, but I feel like people like us, ambitious people, I guess you could say, I don't feel like you ever really reach success, because you're always, once you reach that thing that you've set your mind to, you're like, what's next? So like Terrance, if I could ask you, let's say tomorrow you're making X amount of dollars and you can provide for your family if you're not already. And what do you think would be the next thing in your mind? Like, what would be the next goal?
I read a lot. There's this great author named Simon Sinek. He talks about your why or your purpose. And then he also has a book called Infinite Gain. And basically in those books, it's about having a purpose bigger than any one goal, a purpose that you honestly will never reach. Like, no matter how hard, you can't win at it, you know? You can't win at business. So with Seth, he's always got a goal to reach after. Same with Ross. You can't win at business. You always got ways to improve and be better. For me, my whole why is just, I just want to inspire people to understand like the value of self-development, not just, you know, our bodies, but our mind, our souls, everything, the whole person concept. So whether I'm doing that through bodybuilding or whether I'm doing that, you know, through YouTube or however I'm able to do that, I'm still gonna be able to do that, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you said that, because I've always said, not always, after I hit like 35, I realized bodybuilding wasn't about your physique. I realized like the reason bodybuilding is so good is because it's more about self-mastery entirely. It's not just about having a great physique. It's about mastering your mind, mastering your body, mastering your urges. It's about mastering all of that. So it's a complete self-mastery of your person. And it's like, that's what makes bodybuilding so difficult, because you're always trying to get to that next thing. So, okay. So we've kind of veered off course. Let's go back to a little bit more like, I know we can get philosophical all day, but like, let's go back to more like hands-on shit. So
Yeah.
When you're Terrance, Ross, Seth, whoever wants to answer, when you're coming up and you're not making the money you want, how do you get by if you can't eat filet mignon? If you can't eat these, like, what are you doing to get by in those early days? Ross, go ahead.
When my wife and I, when we were dating, so she lost her job. We both lost her job. She had no money. I think she had like $86 in her account. So she moved in like immediately, and we knew we were going to be together. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We tell the story to each other all the time. We ate eggs 6 meals a day for 4 months.
That's disgusting.
Eggs, rice.
Your house probably stunk real bad.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how the whole Gaines Bakery started.
What do you mean? Why? Explain that.
Oh, she was tired of my smells, dude. She's like, you smell so bad.
Well, you're eating eggs 6 fucking times a day. What do you expect?
Well, so after my workouts, I'd get a low fat Dunkin' Donuts muffin.
Okay. Just for the carbs?
Yeah. And that's what she was like, you stink. I need to make you a new muffin. And that's how it all started. But
that's how it started.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, listen, this is really interesting. Was there ever anything before that? Or was it literally because you were eating a muffin every day? She's like, I'm going to start cooking for you, or baking or whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly. So we were eating eggs and rice and sugar-free ketchup. And then I'd have my Dunkin' Donuts low-fat muffin. And she's like, dude, you smell so bad. Let me make some of the things that digest well for you. And it was oats, sweet potatoes, honey, stuff like that. She made these muffins for me. I fell in love with them. And then I introduced them to, as I alluded to, I was a in-home trainer.
Yeah.
I actually trained a lot of kids too, a lot of youths.
Yeah.
I gave them to the kids, and they lost their minds.
Holy shit.
And that's how it all started. I was like, if these kids that don't eat any vegetables, they've never eaten a sweet potato, they never eaten oatmeal, they love these things and are knocking on our door for them, I think we have something here. Yeah. And that's how it all started, actually.
Okay. So we'll go back to starting a business in a minute, because that's obviously a really interesting point. But Terrance, I want to ask you, so making 30 grand approximately, whatever the number was, and being in the Army, what are you eating to get by at that time? He's doing eggs and rice. What are you eating?
Seth, it was funny when he mentioned that. So like when your first couple ranks, you're living in the dorm, so they actually take money out of your paycheck for food. So I had enough money to buy 2 meals a day. So I would have the oatmeal and the eggs in the morning. And then we would go to the cafeteria. I would eat at the cafeteria. And then I would make a second plate to take with me for my meal number 3. Then I go back to lunch, eat there, then take another meal back with me. And that's how I got by. Yeah.
Jesus. And so Seth, you were clipping coupons. So I want to try and explain to guys coming up, when you want to make that next step, you want to make a little bit more money, you sick of eating eggs and rice, or you're sick of fucking stealing from the cafeteria, what is the next step? How do you advance yourself? What happened from there? Seth, I don't know if you want to go first, but what was the next step where you're like, I can make a little bit more money in this sport doing X, Y, Z? Like, because people can go find jobs, people can personal train, people can, work for their parents or the Army or whatever, but how do they make money in the sport? Because the number one question I get, which you probably get a lot, Ross and Seth, is how do I get sponsored? I want a sponsorship. I want to make money. I want a salary, blah, blah, blah. So there's obviously a whole bunch of things that happen before that, but Seth, if you want to go first, what is the first thing you could do to start making money, or that you did to start making money in the sport?
Well, this is the part of bodybuilding in this industry that is very hard, and why so many people attempt to go through it and fail. Motherfucker, you got to be good enough. You have to be. Nobody, like, as people say, how do you get sponsored? Well, in short terms, you have to be good enough. What value are you bringing to a company? Who are you, and what value do you bring? And this is the part where a lot of people have an issue today of understanding and knowing their worth.
Yeah.
Like on both ends, whether you are not worth it or you are very worth it and you're being manipulated or a little bit of mind fucked and think and deserve more and go get more.
Yeah,
and then that's how like shit or get off the pot comes about it. But when you're on the lower end, it's like the sacrifice. That's why, you know, people used to bust. I've been buying dad shoes since day one because I was a dad and they were cheap as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at those times, you have to make a decision on who you want to be and what you're going to go, because, you know, I'll be very honest. Like, dude, I used to hustle juice to make ends meet whenever I didn't have enough money to pay for all my stuff to get through on a show. And at some point I got to grow up and stop selling drugs. Like, that's stupid. You got to grow up. You can't be 35, 40 years old selling drugs. That's not a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the whole time
like
still,
a family,
still trying to trying to pursue your dream of being a pro bodybuilder. It's like, no, commit. Commit to it. Sacrifice. Go through the challenges, because suffering and sacrifice is how we all have gotten to this point. Like, if you don't know what a shit sandwich tastes like, you don't really actually get to enjoy filet mignon. You know, in my opinion. So I think like
that belongs on a shirt, Seth. That belongs on one of your shirts.
What's that?
If you don't know what a shit sandwich tastes like, then you don't deserve the filet mignon, or you never get to enjoy the filet mignon. Yeah.
And those are things that, like, early on in a career, that's what people have to go through. And you have to understand your worth. Like, what value are you bringing to a company? Like, are you bringing value? And that is the most important thing. And do people like the value comes from, as a supplement company, it's like the awareness of what you're bringing to everybody, the awareness of a company, and also conversion. Are people buying because you are part of my team? And those are just the very basics of it. And then it comes like, are you a good fit with the company and the team and the people and the aura? Because if you just keep jumping around, that's not a good thing. We all go through it. We've all been with good companies, bad companies. We've seen what it's like to be with a company. You're like, fuck, I was a bad decision. It sounded good up front. And then you're at a good company. You're like, fuck, this is great. This is wonderful. There's always going to be good pros and cons to everything. But I believe personally, the number one thing is knowing your worth.
Okay, it's a very valid point. I would just want to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish. And if you don't like what the other party has to say about you and your worth, that's your way of saying either fuck you, I'm going to go somewhere else, or fuck you, I'm going to go do it myself.
Well, the knowing your worth thing is really, really important, because it's just like your physique, right? When we look at physiques, we all know guys that look at their physique and it's not even near being a pro, and they're like, look how awesome I look, I should be a pro. But we also know guys that look like they're a pro already, that are like, I don't want to post my photos because I look horrible. So it's like the same thing with the money. You have guys that look like that guy and could be that person, but they're like, oh, I'm not a pro yet, so I don't want to post anything. And that devalues the monetary value of that person, because they're just not putting themselves out there. And then you have the other person who has like 100 followers, who's like, I want $5,000 a month, and they're nowhere near being a pro. And it's just that, so knowing your worth is important, but I want to come at it from a little different perspective. So the first thing Seth said was, you have to be good enough. And that's in terms of a sponsorship. So in my life, or in Seth's life, and I don't know, Ross and Terrance, you can add in, but I had to be good enough on stage for Muscle Tech to sign me. And Muscle Tech signed Seth as well, probably for the same reason. But I wanted to touch on, what if you want to be involved in the sport? What if you want to make money in the sport, but you're not good enough yet physically? So Terrance, do you have an answer for that person who's like, I want to be Terrance one day, but I'm not there yet, but I want to be involved in the sport. What can I do?
I think Seth said it best, understanding how you can provide value. So we all know John. Before John was a pro, obviously he had a physique, but he made money through educating people. I think he was making way more money than any pro was, at that point too. Yeah. We got guys who are funny, capitalize on that. If you're funny, I don't know the dude's name, but there was this one funny dude. I like the gym bro dude, like with the Jersey accent. ago. Yeah. So finding out what you're good at and capitalizing on that is really, really important if you don't have the physique just yet. You know, entertain, educate, something along those lines.
Is there something you did that you can point to? Because I kind of want to get a little bit of a personal touch on it.
Okay.
You obviously probably have a good contract now, but before the good contract came along, was there something else you did in the sport to make money?
Early on, I had a really bad coach when I started, and I said to myself, I never wanted to be in this position where I don't know enough to where I can't tell when something's being fucked up. So I started to take courses really early on. The military paid for my education, so I got into coaching really, really early on in my career, and that's how I kind of made my way. I educated people. You know, I would learn and I would give out free stuff. I would give out I would do Q&As. People ask me questions, and that's kind of how I built my reputation as a coach. You know, I see a lot of guys out there now, they just say, hey, I'm offering coaching, and then they never post anything educational. So I'm like, besides you looking like, you know, you having a nice physique, I don't know that you know anything about bodybuilding, you know?
Yeah.
So showing people that you know something is what I did, you know?
So offering some Q&A, offering some free advice. And I think that goes a long way, because a lot of people don't offer it. I think Andy Frisella said it best. It's like you have to give two and take one. So basically meaning like give something and then people will give you back. You don't just take, right? So okay, so we have a coach and we had a personal trainer. And this is a question I get a lot, because I think the coaching thing is the easiest barrier to entry for people who want to make money in bodybuilding or fitness, whatever you want to say. So personal training, coaching. This is the number one question I get from people that want to do that. How do I build up a big clientele? So Terrance or Ross, I'll ask you first. How do you get to that C-suite client? How do you get to having enough people that you're living off of your personal training?
Well, so I don't personal train anymore.
No. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I meant like back in the day.
I still diet coach. So that's one of my other businesses.
Okay.
And I could live off that salary with ease. I think people have to, the concept of trust is lacking big time in this world. And if you don't have trust, then you can't sell anything. Like once someone trusts you, like Fouad, we talked before we recorded.
Yeah.
People trust my opinion. So, and I've built that up over years by not spewing bullshit, by not trying to sell shit. So my opinion holds a lot of weight. So when I say, hey, I like this product, they trust me, they will buy it, and my trust will allow that product to gain more traction because of its actual valid opinion.
Okay. So, and that's 100%, actually 1,000%. Like that's kind of what we've built our business on, is the whole, like, what we say is what we mean. I'm sure we all feel that way. But when you're coming up, I want to know how you got that first client and how you made the rest buy in. Is it just because the first client, was it word of mouth? Was it like you were advertising? Like, what were you doing to kind of build up that clientele and really make a business out of it?
In terms of like training or diet coaching?
Either or, just because for people listening, right? Some people want to be personal trainers. Some people want to be diet coaches. So I just want to give some ideas to people that what they're not doing.
What I would, for in both situations, for in-home, for personal training and diet coaching, I would offer free stuff. And I know it's not, you shouldn't offer free stuff because you want to have value. Yeah. But when you need to get something going. Yeah. So I would, pick up 4 people to do, a diet phase 4, and I would build up content and track their progress. And I have that content. Now I, maybe sell one person and then trickle it in.
And this is, like you were saying, like, oh, you don't like to give away free stuff, but this is the most competitive fucking industry in the game.
Yeah.
Like, we can just start naming things off. I didn't even know you did diet coaching. Like, there's tons of people that do these things. So that's that, like there's a million things out there. What separates you? Why are you better than this person? And the trust thing's huge. That's a great point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, giving
uber competitive.
Yeah. I mean, in the context of giving stuff away, that's what we do with supplements too. I'm like, I want somebody to try my stuff. because I believe it's better than everybody else's or tastes better than everybody else's or whatever it is, right? Like Seth does the same thing. And I want them to try Accent Sledge, or I want them to try Hostile because I think they're going to love it more than what they're already using. So you give them some giveaways, they try it, like, oh, I do like it better. And then they buy. And it's the same thing I think for coaching, is like Terrance is saying and Ross is saying, is give them some information. So Terrance, I like your point, because there's a really easy way to do what you were saying is, you know, everybody has an Instagram, you can easily create a YouTube. It's very easy to do a Q&A and give out some information through
one of my
go ahead.
Oh yeah, one of my coaches, David, he's not a big name guy in the industry, physique wise, but he kills it by giving out free content almost every single day, teaching people, and establishing himself as a person that knows something, you know. Now he coaches Keon, he coaches a couple other big name athletes. He's coached Dr. Sonny for a little bit because he showed people he knew what he was talking about.
He's good enough.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the other thing, Ross, is just because you give out free information doesn't mean you're going to get a shit ton of clients all of a sudden.
Right.
You have to, one of the things I admire about all three of you guys is the hustle, right? Like Ross is running 2 businesses and he's dieting for a show. I don't even know how that's fucking possible, but whatever. So that's like more hustle than I could imagine. And you just have a lot of things going on. Seth is running 2 businesses. He's got 3 kids. You know, Terrance is fucking training, just won the Arnold. He's got a whole bunch of stuff going on. So it's like he's diet coaching and doing all these things, doing posing clinics. So everybody has stuff going on. So it's hustle. So when you said you have to be good enough, it's like you can give out free information, but you have to give clients as much of yourself as you can. And then you have to prove yourself. If you coach those first 1 or 2 or personal train those first 1 or 2 clients and you do a bad job, that's word of mouth. So you got to put in the time and effort too, right? Like that's something that we haven't touched on yet.
I think perseverance and grit is important. Because yeah, I mean, I guarantee you, all of us didn't have like immediate success when we started. We probably fucked up. I had some clients in the beginning that, especially when you've been out free stuff to clients, they don't check in, they don't get results, and then you have to keep trying. You have to keep getting new clients until you get that one that actually really wants it, that couldn't afford it, and then you finally get that one good progress, that transformation photo, and then you can start to build upon that.
That's right.
But yeah, it just takes time. You have to be willing to eat shit for a while, for sure.
Yeah. So moving on from that period, Seth, when you got your first contract, because you were good enough, Seth was kind of like for those of you who don't know, when Seth was competing, he kind of blasted onto the scene as the next big thing and got a contract pretty quickly. So after you got that contract, were you like, I made it, I'm good, I could sit on my ass now? Or was there still more after that? Like what was life like at that point? Because now you have the Muscle Tech contract and all that.
Yeah, I had the Muscle Tech contract. It was for $3,500 a month. And then I was getting
motherfucker, you were getting paid more than me.
Yeah, I was really good.
I was really good.
I was getting paid $3,500 a month, and then I was getting $1,000 a month for muscular development. So I was making $4,500 a month. Like all of a sudden, like I started doing well, and that was my rookie year. And then I won the Dallas Europa show. So then it went from $3,500 a month to $4,500 a month. And then my contract with muscular development actually equaled that. It became $4,500 a month as well. Yeah, so I was making $9,000 a month as a young, those
were the good old days.
Guy. And it was just straight mailbox money. Go fucking win. Yeah, that's the name of the game. There was no social media then. Like that was just it. It was 2010. Yeah. So I did really well there, and then I lost, and then I kind of lost my head too, and my home life fell a little bit of apart, and I left the industry in 2013. Muscle Tech actually told me after, I lost the shows, lost my shit, blamed everybody for me losing, all that fucking childish shit. Muscle Tech they were like, we want to keep you signed on. They're like, we like you. You're going to come back. Like the owner of Muscle Tech, after I shit the bed at the Toronto Pro, goes, everyone loses. Calm down. Just go back to work.
But Seth, when you're making that $9,000, Are you doing anything else at this point? Or are you like, this is my life, this is it?
That was it. I stopped all the bullshit, trying to make ends meet by selling drugs. I was like, I'm fucking done with it. I don't got to sell, tests to make my money back. I don't got to do all that to make ends meet for the family. Now I'm making real money. It's all on me. And then I screwed up and lost shows. And then also at the time, like kind of lost my head. And then my home life was a mess. So in 2013, I stepped away, and that's whenever I just went and got a real job.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Seth. When you look back at the $9,000 a month days, do you regret not doing more, or are you still content with like not doing anything else? Because the reason I'm asking that is because I didn't do a lot when I first got my first contracts. I also sat back, but then after like a year, I realized there's a lot of money I'm leaving on the table here. There's a lot of things I could be hustling to do more to add to these contracts. So when you look back at it, are you happy you kind of like just took it in stride, or do you wish you would have kept on building other things?
A little bit of a loaded question just because of my life, having 2 kids and my ex. My home life wasn't great, and it was a little bit of a shit show, and I had to take care of some stuff at home. So looking back at it, like I always knew that like if I kind of like, I hate, this is ignorant to say in a way, but it's the truth. If I freed myself from her and got away from the drama and the ugliness and all that bullshit back then, I'd go on to do great things. So that's kind of why, like when I came back to the scene in 2016, early, late 2015, early 2016, I was like, everything that I do, I'm going to fucking own. And that's why when I came back on, she was no longer around, and I just did every single fucking thing possible. Like I was living paycheck to paycheck again. At that time, I went from $9,000 a month to all of a sudden no money, getting a job, working for the man, which was a pretty good job, to quitting that job to do all this, and I was broke again. And it's like those are the points. But I went for I will invest in myself every time. I learned that about myself over the time, and that's why in 2016 I was like all in on me. I love bodybuilding. I love everybody in it. I had so much fun there. That's where I want to be. Minus something that was a little bit of a problem in my life.
So Ross, it seems like from the beginning you were intent on being self-sufficient and not needing anybody else. So you said when you decided to start bodybuilding, you were 22. So did you know about athletes getting contracts and all these kind of things?
I didn't know shit about fuck. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any coaches. I didn't know athletes. I saw a video of a YouTube video of Arnold like posing on a mountain. Do you know that one?
It's from Pumping Iron.
And I fell in love with it. I was like, that is what I want to do. I want to be alone in my world, and I want to fucking bodybuild.
So the reason I ask you that is, so you weren't ever like, I don't want to have to rely on supplement companies. I want to have my own business. You just wanted to rely on yourself just because it was just your thing.
I've never had any supplement deal or ambassadorship or sponsorship at all. I've never had that.
But it doesn't even seem like something you're really interested in. You kind of have your business and you want to build your own thing and not worry about anybody else's stuff.
Yes and no. I think, I'm so isolated over here with my wife and what we're doing. Sometimes I feel like being a part of a team within the bodybuilding space would be something that I'd want to do. But I have to be good enough first.
So when you guys started your business, I guess we'll move forward. Well, before we move into starting business, Terrance,
contracts.
I want to discuss contracts. That's kind of the next phase, right? Because a lot of people get into the sport. The first thing is like, how do I make money? So they personal train, or they coach, or they, do posing clinics. And then from there, maybe they become good enough and they finally start getting their first contract in that. So I don't know how much you want to divulge, but how did your contracts start and change throughout the years? Because obviously they've changed with your progression.
All right. First contract I ever had was with this brand that's no longer around. I can't even remember the name of it, but I had just turned pro. And I was a lightweight when I turned pro. There was no classic, so I wasn't a name. So I think going back to what Seth said about knowing your worth, I wasn't worth that much at the time. So I got free supplements, and I was happy with that. When classic came around, I started to do a bit better. I won my first show, and that's when I got my first decent contract with Matt. He paid me $2,000 a month. Honestly, I think that was a little bit higher than what I was worth at that time still, but I think he was investing in what he knew what would be coming. So $2,000 a month for a while with NPA. That was 2016, first year classic. Then I kind of slacked off with my obligations as an athlete, and they kind of dropped my pay. And right around the time when I was getting out of the military. So not a great moment in my life. And that's kind of when I realized, like, I never want to be relying on a supplement company for my income.
Wait a minute. Can I interrupt you? But we'll get back to that exact point. I just want to ask you, as an athlete, why did you slack off on your responsibilities? Since you brought that up, I'm just curious.
I am not like a huge, like, it's taken me a long time to get used to doing the social media thing. I like the days where, Seth and you guys, where you just showed up for events, you did, photos. So I just wasn't really good at that at the beginning. I'm just now figuring it out.
It is something you have to learn. Yeah.
So I just wasn't posting enough and converting enough. So they dropped it. So that kind of hurt financially. But
so that taught you that you needed your own shit.
Yeah. And that's when I really dove deeper into coaching aspect, really pushing that harder. Where I'm still making more coaching than I do from sponsorships, like way more.
So you had to learn a hard lesson. I think we've all been there. When was the next sponsorship after that? Or was there another revenue stream while you were coaching? Was it just coaching and then a next contract, or was there something else that came into play?
That was it for the longest time. Now I'm in a much better spot. I have a clothing company sponsorship, supplement company deal, and I own equity in the Fit Body Fusion brand. So I was getting to the point where I couldn't handle any more clients, and I was looking to build a team, scale the business a bit.
Yeah.
And I ended up meeting Jamie DeMenard. They had some issues building the male side of their business, and they came to me with the proposition and of building up the male side, but also having getting passive income from the business as well.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a better option because I had no idea how to set up the systems in place to do something like that. And on top of that, they're in a really good spot too. They sponsor every big show. They sponsor the Olympia, the Arnold, about 24 shows, every national show.
Who is that?
Fit Body Fusion.
Fit Body Fusion.
So we have about 35 coaches, and at the moment, we just brought on a new guy, Esteban, Colombian, because we're trying to branch out to be a little bit more bilingual. So we're reaching out to some Spanish people as well.
These guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is it right here. I've signed up with them, and it's been amazing. Jamie has been in the industry forever. She's a former Olympian. Her father helped create the little things we use to use our credit cards with. So he was like, he's the guy that made that.
Oh, the square thing?
Make some money.
Yeah.
You mean
Worth it.
You mean the square thing that goes on your phone that like you can swipe?
No, before that. The old school card. Yeah.
Okay.
The stores.
Yeah.
So she knows what she's doing business-wise 100%. And I just thought it'd be a better option for me. But going back to like contract-wise, I think even if you can't demand like a ton of money, understanding like these contracts you can negotiate with them with. So like with Still, I made a deal with Jason. We were talking back and forth. Everyone knows Jason. He wanted to sign me too.
Well, for some people who don't. So Jason Huz from Steel Supplements.
Steel Supplements, pro bodybuilder. Yeah, so so after I think he signed, he's a nice dude, so he signed me at literally my lowest point when I had, when Matt passed away. I was homeless for like 2 weeks, and yeah, he took a chance on me as well. But after I won that first big show, and a couple months later my contract ended, we started to talk a little bit, and I asked him, I was like, hey, I know that I can only demand so much money in monthly salary, but how about if I want to show, can you match the prize money for me?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. So going into this Arnold, I won $70K. I got paid another $70K from Steel, and then I also have a deal with Tough Raps where they don't match it completely, but they pay a percentage. So I made, even though Classic, we don't make a ton of money. Usually that's the highest price money we have for a show right now, $70K.
Dude,
Awesome.
that's some good negotiating skills on your part.
If you're fucking good enough.
Yeah. Good for you, man.
I always try to find ways. If I can't make, a ton of money like in a certain way, then I try to find some other type of benefit. So like, even with like, when I'm doing seminars and stuff, I'm like, okay, well, this is a little bit less about making money. But if I'm going out to Chile for an event later this year, I'm like, well, you can pay me this much. This is what your cap is, but I know they get a discount on the hotel. So I was like, put me up at a hotel for a week, and I get a vacation. No,
that's smart.
Finding ways and negotiate. I think a lot of people are just scared to talk to people about stuff. They're scared about losing out or missing the opportunity.
Yeah. And
I think like stuff, just knowing your worth and knowing what you can get away with and what you can't get away with is a big deal here. And understanding that. Yeah, you're
real quick.
Okay.
That point right there of not being afraid to talk to people is crucial. You just have to talk it out. These are just discussions. If you want to talk, you bring it up. Yeah, that is a huge point whenever you're dealing with people with contracts, negotiations. You just understand the situation, pay attention to energies and vibes and tone of voice, so that you understand how far you can push before you reel it in, but also don't be afraid to go after yourself, Well, that's a phenomenal point.
I remember, and it is because I remember back in the day when you're younger and you're trying to get a contract, you're scared that if you talk too much or ask too many questions, that they might just they might just stop discussions altogether. So if
you're not feeling the vibe of a conversation.
Well, I just
mean
like
an asshole and go in there and demand the world. You know what I mean? But I understand what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah, like when Muscle Tech came to me, they're like, "We'll give you less than Seth," and I was like, "I'll take it." So I didn't say I want the same as Seth or I want this or I just said, cool. They're Muscle Tech. I want the contract. I don't want it. So it's a really good point that you guys bring up is if they want you, they're going to be willing to have a discussion. And if they're not willing to have a discussion, then it might not be a good fit for you anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Terrance, where did you have to place before? Was it after you won your first show you're able to renegotiate, or like where is it where people can finally say, you know what, I want X? Like, do they have to be, you're second in the whole world right now, so is that where they have to be, or like where is it?
I think anytime you're going into a contract deal, and I mean, again, Seth said it already, you got to understand what you bring. You got to understand what you're bringing to the table. I think a lot of people have no clue what they bring to the table.
Okay, wait. Terrance, let me get specific about that because we've all said it a few times. If I'm Terrance, what am I bringing to the table? You're talking about follow. Okay. Yeah, tell me what you're bringing to the table when you sit down with someone.
Followers is important, obviously, but that's not the end all be all. Let's say, for instance, I'm a hot chick on Instagram, and all I do is show my ass, and 90% of the people that follow me are just horny dudes. I'm not gonna be able to sell a supplement because they don't care what I'm selling, right?
Right.
So having people that actually care about what you have to offer is important. I think one of the biggest things that kind of humbled me just a tad was seeing the actual sales I convert. I don't know if you guys use Affiliate or not, but just seeing how much stuff actually, what actually happens.
Yeah.
Actually really, really eye-opening for me. And obviously a lot of people can't see that directly, but until they get into that contract with someone. But I mean, obviously the first thing is you got to have a decent amount of following, you know.
What's a decent, more specifically, what's a decent amount of following? Let's say somebody wants.
So I used to date this girl, Rachel. I had like 500K followers. She has about 100.
Yeah.
But she could sell just as much as me because her fans are fucking hardcore Rachel fans, right? So it's tough to say the number, because even with Flag Nor Fail, this girl, she has the second highest number of sales, and she only has like 9,000 followers. And we got girls with like 100K on the team, but she's outselling them because her fans are loyal fans. You know?
Yeah.
And that goes back to the beginning. That's a huge point. What are you bringing to the table, and knowing your worth and your value to somebody? Because say you have 50,000 followers, but you're selling 75 grand in supplements every month. Like, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and then as someone that has a 500,000 that's maybe selling, you know, $15,000-$20,000 a month. So, I mean, those are the things then, and as an athlete, what everybody needs to remember is every single company that you're working with keeps those numbers. You need to see those numbers. Put that into your contract, that you see the actual numbers and all the transparency, because if you end up leaving that company or things don't work out, you have that you have that property of saying, hey, look at supplement company. This is what I do. This is part of my value. I have great conversion, or even if it's whatever your conversion is, this is my conversion rate, because that's going to be a question.
I mean, you can generally tell, even if they don't want to give you the numbers. If you're getting a 10% commission, then you know, if you made $2,500 this month, and you sold 25 grand worth of product. So like you can kind of do the conversion on your own if somebody's doesn't want to give you, but most companies should be able to provide you with that number. It's not a secret. So, okay. So
I think, but real quick before we move on.
No, go ahead.
I think what people should understand is so again, social media is pretty much the whole thing now with being sponsored. I think understanding that your social media page is like your storefront now. You know, what are you trying to convey to people on your Instagram page? You know, it's somewhat important. I think guys like you, Jason, Seth, you guys have done a really good job of branding yourselves and conveying to people who you are as a person. You know, because that's what matters. Like, people get invested once they know who you are. Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it.
Well, that's what I tell people is, like, people like your physique, but they fall in love with your personality. Yeah. If they don't know your personality, then you're just a physique that once that physique disappears, you disappear as well. Like Jay, to me, sorry, Seth, just for a sec. Seth is one of the best examples of this, because Seth retired fucking 8 years ago or 9 years ago, but people fall in love with his personality. The fact that he has a great physique is awesome. It goes with it. But if Seth all of a sudden tomorrow looked like a fat marshmallow, people would still follow him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they still would like me. I'm on my OnlyFans page, bruh. Multi-dimensional.
Sorry, Seth. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
What I was going to say was, another thing that comes into play is, like Terrance was saying, he was a little humbled by his sales and his conversion rate per his number of followers. But as a company owner, the awareness of your brand and the awareness of an athlete that you bring on, like whenever Terrance goes to Steel, what do you see them do with Terrance? They put him in the craziest creative lighting. They utilize him and have him display, like, because Terrance, you don't hear Terrance talk very much in the stuff. What do you see? You see a phenomenal physique, do things that no one else is doing, put on these posing routines. So Steel has to say, okay, this is how much money we pay him, but how are we going to utilize him to make money off of his physique and his display? Like, he's a fucking statue. He's literally a flowing statue. So how do we capitalize on him? So and that's whenever he comes in, we utilize him, we put him in these scenarios and find a way as a company to make more money off of him than just his sales. Tell everybody, if you're here, I'm telling fucking everybody, you are the Arnold Classic champion, just like Steel does. Like, that's what I mean. You got to capitalize on the individuals because if you have someone of his caliber, that's what you do. And then say someone like Logan Franklin, for example, fucking the Texas Oak, massive guy, all the posing, Well, if he's not converting at those same rate at the numbers that he thought he would or anything like it, you use his display of his physique. You put him in these advantageous positions from a company standpoint to make money from just how he looks.
Yeah.
Or if someone is funny and talks, use that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Use their personalities and their attributes to your advantage.
So early on, we talked about success and what it means. So I just want to ask one question before we go on to building a business. Terrance, what's it feel like to go from the military to where you are now? Because obviously you're in a much, much better financial position. So does it feel like, do you feel that success, or you just still feel like that same person that was in the military trying to make it? Because I'm like I told my wife this the other day. I'm like, I have more money than I've ever had in my life, and I feel broke as fuck. Like, how does that, like, I don't know how that makes sense, but that's, you guys feel that way too?
I live by I live by that.
Is that something that is never going to go away?
I don't think it is.
How is that possible?
That's that thing that, the whole moving target thing you said. That's what it is. It's like, I still think boobs are cool, so I still feel like a 16-year-old. So like all this interaction of all these different things occurring in life, I'm like, man, I still kind of feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing a really good job of it. I'm putting everything I got into it, so that's all I can do.
Yeah. Let's just keep going, huh? It's so awesome you said that, because it's funny because most company owners are like, they want to act like they got it all figured out. Like, I know exactly what's going on, and I know exactly where we're going, and to a certain degree, everybody does. But I also have that feeling, Seth, of like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but it's working. So just keep going with it. My desk is covered right now with paperwork and numbers and samples that we're doing of new products, and it's like, you just keep going. You have an idea, you have a grasp on everything, but then at nighttime, I always say, like, at night times when you have your conversations and you're vulnerable with yourself, you're just like, what the fuck is my life? Yeah.
Whatever it is, I really like it, and I'm having a good time. I'm going to keep working hard.
All right. So moving on to building a business, and we kind of have been talking about building a business because we talked about trust, we talked about word of mouth, we talked about giving back. All of those things are part of building a business. But I want to go to Ross and ask, because you guys started from like a really, really grassroots, like you said, your wife made you a fucking muffin. So like, how do you go from my wife made me a muffin to who you guys are today? Because I know you're big and you're successful and everybody knows about you guys. So like, how does that happen? And what are some of the things you could teach people along the way that maybe want to start their own thing?
Yeah, this is a super abstract question.
I know. Yeah.
We have envisioned every single thing. And we've accomplished every single thing that we've envisioned. So
this is Flavor Gang. This is Ross's website. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Ross. Just wanted to.
No, that's okay.
Let people know.
Yeah.
Go on.
It all comes down to mindset. My wife and I, our hobbies were to talk about business and talk about ideas. That's what we do all day long. We just became addicted to it, obsessed with it. Every second of our time being awake was dedicated to talking about these things. And it just going through the checklist. Like, our first thing was we wanted to open up a restaurant and a bakery. We did that. Second was we wanted to open up a compound.
But wait a minute. Sorry, you just skipped over a big part. So your first thing was you want to open a bakery.
Yeah.
The first person somebody says, okay, great, you want to open a bakery, but where did you get the money? Where'd you get the money to open that bakery? Okay,
so going back to the eggs and rice thing.
Yeah.
So we knew at that point, we wanted to do something with, we wanted to get out of Maryland.
Yeah.
So we had to penny pinch and save up like 10 grand. And then we got married and we were able to capitalize on some wedding money. And with that wedding money, we were able to find a commercial lease.
Okay.
And then a bunch of stuff happened, but we opened up a very small, very, very small spot. And we actually outgrew that space in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And just of being, either whether it's luck or just being really good. One of the customers was, is our landlord still today. And he converted his hotel into a restaurant. And that
Okay.
restaurant is on the first floor. And then we used to live above the restaurant.
Wow.
And now our staff lives above the restaurant and we live in a house attached to the restaurant. So,
Wow. So it
Drive
all
a mile a day. That's how it started then, huh?
yep.
So
Yep.
kind of just like, every dollar went into it from the very beginning and you kind of just grew it organically as possible.
No, till this day, we have not spent $1 on ads. Every single thing is word of mouth and a referral base.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a foundation like that, you have that. And going back to the trust.
Yeah.
So every time Flavor Gang launches a new product, we have so much trust. The consumer knows it's going to be a banger. Like,
Yeah.
we just released a new sauce called Orange Dragon to some of our retail stores.
Yeah.
And the feedback is amazing. So
I think it's also the ability to have patience and vision, because I think a lot of people get into the supplement game, for example. Like I don't know the sauce game and the bakery all that well, so I can't speak on it, but business is business. And I think people get into businesses and they want to be a giant from day one. And I think they make a bunch of mistakes because they want to be that giant. And I think what you're saying is by not spending money on advertising and having a lot of trust and a lot of integrity and word of mouth, the way you're doing it is the long game though, right? Like you and your wife must have known that from the beginning. Like this is a long-term, we may be a huge company one day, but it's going to take us years. Like you knew that going in.
Yeah, you can tie it to bodybuilding. I'm sure when Terrance turned pro, was it at Nationals or USA's, Terrance?
Nationals.
Did you have a feeling deep inside that you were going to win the Arnold Classic multiple times?
No, I never really thought about anything. Any of that,
No,
to
he
be honest with you, man. Yeah.
Terrance is too humble, man. He wouldn't say that.
Even if he didn't know,
Yeah.
that task of doing that, achieving that accomplishment, will take years.
But you know what? Just like in bodybuilding, you have the guys that will start and they'll take a ton of gear because they want to look like Ross after fucking 6 months.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to convey to the people listening, whether you're starting an online coaching business, whether you're starting a personal training business, whether you're starting a brick and mortar store or anything like Ross did, or a supplement company, the patience, I think, is one of the patience and the trust are like one of the very key factors. Because even in my business, when we launched, I was like, I want to be the biggest company in the industry today. I'm like, I want to do it today. I want everything now. And it took my partners to sit me down and go, listen, we're going to do this way. And I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. I think that makes a lot more sense. And now we have like you know what I mean? Like Seth knows what I'm talking about. Like, I'm like, let's sell to all the stores and let's go to all the different countries and and it's like, that would have been the biggest mistake ever.
Yeah. Sometimes more money is not better money. So,
well, yeah. And sometimes too fast isn't necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
So
It's you ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Yep.
No. What is that?
Yeah. I mean, this guy, Simon, no, it's a different guy, but he did the research on guys like Bill Gates, the Beatles, tons of people. And he found that generally it takes around 10,000 hours for someone to be truly excellent at something that they do. And yeah, for me, I've been doing it in 10,000 hours, give or take, depending on how much you do it each day, it varies, but that's about 10 years. And, I've been doing this about 10 years. So I think I asked Dana Lynn Bailey the other day, I'm like, when did you win your first Olympics? She's like, oh, about 10 years in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yeah. So I've asked a lot of people that, and it comes up to be around anywhere from like 9 to 12 years typically.
So you're telling me I got another 8 years before I can say hostile is excellent. Fuck.
Hopefully not.
I don't have that kind of patience, man. Fuck that.
I'd be the outlier, you know what I mean?
No, but listen, I gotta say, like, business wise, if you're an impulsive person, you're in for a fucking rude awakening, because I'm super impulsive and super impatient. And I had to like rewire my entire thinking for this business. Yeah, go ahead, Ross. Sorry.
So you brought up a great point / question about having to wait 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of people don't realize is that what you've done in the past, Fouad, directly affects your business now.
Yeah, of course.
Whether you had a business 5 years ago or not, the relationships, the credibility, everything you were able to cultivate back then is the foundation. And I think a lot of people, when they're trying to either get a supplement contract or open up a business, they completely skip the foundation.
The planting the seeds part.
Right.
Yeah.
The foundation is where like it's a house. You need a foundation. You need to have the connections. You need to have the trust. You need to have a personality. Your podcast blew up, is killing it. And that's a part of the puzzle that you're able to have success.
So you brought up a good point that we didn't discuss when it comes to money. And this is actually a really, really big one that we haven't touched on yet. And that's networking and connections. So people say the term like, oh, you got to play the game. I'm going to come to you, Seth, because I know this is big.
No,
for
I
you,
know.
But I just what were you going to say? What were you
I was going to say rule number 1, don't be a piece of shit.
Exactly. No, but I really want to touch on this because it's really, really important, especially in our industry.
Yeah.
A lot of bodybuilders are introverted. They're not very open. They're not great at making friends. I'm one of those people. I have anxiety my entire life I dealt with. So I'm not that's
why you became a bodybuilder.
Yeah, right. So like, those people like my brother-in-law, for example, can walk up and talk to anyone about anything and they're like best friends the next day. I'm the opposite person. So one of the things I'm learning about in business is, like you said, Ross, your relationships matter. And I don't want to fake those relationships because I don't like being fake. But at the same time, you still have to create those relationships. So how can you give anybody like the introverted people that aren't great at that? What is some general rules that you guys can give them to help build that base of relationships that they may need one day down the road when they start a business or when they want to do something? Go ahead, Seth.
Be yourself.
Yeah, but what if yourself is being really quiet though?
That's okay then. But you still, like, within the day of social media, you have to put yourself out there. So like in the beginning, whenever I put myself out there, I knew that on YouTube, I needed to be entertaining, informational, and educational. Like I had to give them I should say educational, informational, and entertaining. Like I wanted to educate them how to do side laterals and give them information that I've used previously to help me. And then I wouldn't be entertaining. Well, I'm a little bit of a fuck off. I'm a jokester. I like to bust balls. I grew up in a wood shop. And in the beginning, everybody was like, that's not how much he swears. This guy's an asshole. All these things. He's just being fake. It's like all this. And that's where like the garden gnome thing came from, all this stuff. And I'm like, this is literally who I am. And then when people meet me in person, they're like, no, that's really how he is. He's going to make comments. He's going to bust balls. So I'm not one to I don't like the selfies and sit there, but I had to get used to it. Yeah, and I think in this day and age, you really do have to put yourself out there and just be yourself.
Okay, but wait a minute.
If you're like, I'm a quiet person, I'm pretty calm, just be yourself, but show the world yourself.
Okay, but that's 100% true, but we're still talking about social media. I'm talking about behind the scenes in building those relationships that are important to your business. So Ross, for example, when you said creating relationships, do you stay in touch with people all the time? What do you mean exactly by creating relationships? Are you checking on people every day? Do you have a routine of I got to touch base with this person? I haven't talked to him in a month. What does that look like?
Oh, that's a good question. So I've been doing sales my whole life.
Yeah.
I would say not directly answering your question, but I'm going to answer it how
that's fine.
Sometimes the best way to sell something, whether you're selling yourself, is to not sell anything. So even just saying checking in on Seth, hey man, how's everything going? Just thinking of you. Let me know if you need anything. That's all. That's just a little inflection on their life that just shows someone that you care about them without trying to sell. Hey, Seth, you need any product? I got blah, blah, blah. You don't need to do that. It'll happen.
Terrance, do you have anything to add to that as far as online clients or trying to grow your business?
So right now I'm in a really cool space. I'm really trying to advocate certain things for the athletes. In the past, when people get to my position, they tend to only think about themselves. So when I got to speak with Jake Wood at the Olympia about some certain things we can do to help the athletes, whether it's, making them, doing things that make them healthier, or just promoting the athlete more leading into a show and providing a better way for them to make money. So it's taken a while to kind of build that, but I'm an extroverted person too. But it just kind of clicked to me, like, it's nothing, like, I used to feel some type of way about talking to judges or talking to people because I didn't want to be like that person, like, oh, that person's kissing ass or whatever. But
yeah.
Building a friendship, man. I mean, like, I just want to, there's nothing wrong with just talking to people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I train at Dave's gym. This is where I'm at right now. I didn't talk to Dave for 2 years because I was like, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. And then I had a conversation with him like 3 months ago. And he's like one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. He's like 52 years old and understands me better than anyone out there,
Yeah.
But basically, just talking to people. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to be like trying to get something out of them, but just getting to know a person. Yeah, getting to know that person.
Sorry, I think what you said, one of the things that really clicked for me is when you said, I used to feel that a certain type of way about being that guy that was kissing ass. Yeah. That's always been my thing, is like, I feel like when I reach out to people that I'm not really, really close with, I'm like, am I playing some kind of game? I don't want to play some kind of game. Like, that's not, I don't want to come off like that. Right. But I don't know, it's
a good point. It's a good point you said there. You don't want to feel like you're playing a game, but in this industry and in all industries, like sales and whatever you're doing, there is a game. Okay. There is.
But I like the idea of actually building friendships instead of thinking it that way.
Well, that's what I mean. There is a game. There is a political side to this. Jake Wood going to Terrance. Like, Jake Wood runs a fucking Olympia. Like, dude, billionaire.
Yeah.
But it's like, what's the outcome? The outcome is the betterment of how we can handle this because of Terrance's status.
Yeah.
So it's like the relationship needs to get built. And whenever you go in, like if Terrance goes in there as a yes man, like, Mr. Wood, you do great. Everything's so wonderful. I love the Olympia. Everything's wonderful. You just so good. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
That's kissing ass for no reason. No, you be yourself. You say, hey, like, this year at the Olympia, this happened, and I thought it was kind of shit. Like, I think we can do a better job. Like, you came to me for my honest opinion. This is my honest opinion. And you don't have to, be profane, but be yourself and be forthright. And that's how you build a relationship. And in business relationships aren't personal relationships. They're business relationships where we both know the outcome has to be the betterment, because you can't do it without me and I can't do it without you. So let's do cool shit together.
Yeah. Go ahead, Terrance.
Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah. I went into it understanding that anything I had to say, it had to make sense on his part. So like, if I want athletes to make more money, then they need to be making more money at the same time. But then also, like, if I went into it, like you said, like just praising him for everything he done, then there's no, what's the outcome? There's no change at that point, Nope. So I think just being real is always the way to be. I mean, obviously be respectful, but being honest, like, I like this part of the Olympia, but look, hey, how about we start promoting these athletes early on in the year to build up a story, so that way people get invested in the Olympia a lot earlier, stuff like that. Yeah.
So we've gone from, I think there's a lot of good stuff in the podcast. We kind of touched on a lot of really important shit that I don't think a lot of people are necessarily doing or necessarily consider part of business. I still think the two main points I want to take from it, though, is hustle and honesty. It's like, because I really feel like hustle is lost. Like, people asked me when I was coming up how I made money, and there was so many different revenues. Like, there was the contract, and there was online coaching, and there was selling t-shirts, and there was seminars, and there was guest posing. But like, those things don't happen by accident. Like, you gotta reach out to people for seminars. You gotta invest your money. You got to invest your money back in to make fucking t-shirts. You got to you have to be willing to push the envelope in all these different areas. Seth, Terrance, you want to say something about seminars?
Yeah, real quick. Seminars, guest postings, whatnot. People, sponsorships. people expect for all these people to reach out to them. Yes, I'm known for posing, but there's a list of all the shows throughout the year and the promoters in the email. I went through each one of their emails and contacted each and every single one of them to get those guest postings. I got a lot of no's. Yeah. But the yeses I got, those 5, 6, 7 yeses were great. Even with the big international trips, I got to go to Korea, and now I have a relationship with them. I've been back twice. Yeah. I wouldn't have got that if I wouldn't have reached out to them and asked them would they be interested in something like that.
And that's what I mean. That's part of hustle, right? Because like you said, people do expect you. They're just, people are going to find me. Well, if you're not fucking Terrance Ruffin and you're not fucking Jay Cutler, people aren't just going to find you. You have to go out of your way for them to find, like to show them who you are.
I learned that from Jay Cutler, actually. Jay Cutler told me to do that.
Listen, everybody learned a lot of shit from Jay Cutler. So, but I just really feel like the hustle game is like lost, man. I really don't feel like people know how much effort it takes, because you can have every pot on your stove going at the same time and make a little bit of money out of each one, but you have to invest a lot of time in each one of those things. You can't just expect it all to happen.
Especially when you tell a person, hey, you got to hustle for 10 years.
Yeah. Like, what? Yeah, but it's funny because people are willing to do that. If you tell, like, if like Ross, if you say it took me 10 years to turn pro or whatever it did, people will be like, okay, I understand that, because they know, like, it takes time to build a physique. But if you said to somebody, it took me 10 years to make my first $10 million or first $1 million or whatever it is, people are like, wow, that's a long time. Like they think it's easier for some reason.
Well, that's also why we're talking about this right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think that a lot of people have a lot of questions, and a lot of people right now, there is a huge young demographic of younger people that are getting into the sport and really enjoying it just as we did. And the sport is much different now than it was. Mm-hmm. So, like my whole MO that I built everything on was being a hardworking motherfucker. And I'm like, you don't have to be a genius. You do not. You don't have to be a rocket surgeon. All you have to do is whatever you're going to do at that specific time, just be the best motherfucker you can be at it.
There's no
whatever
such thing
it is you're going to do. And as you continue to do those things in life throughout your day, and your whatever you wake up, you make your coffee the way that you like to make it. Whenever you drive to work with purpose. Whenever you do all these things, all of a sudden in life, like, things start clicking a different way. You think different about yourself. You think different about why you're doing something, the purpose that you're doing it. When you're with your wife, you don't have your phone there the whole time. Yeah, babe, that's great. No, you're with your wife. Whenever you're at work, like all these things. And I think that if you just adopt that simple-minded principle, like, great things will occur with you in your life.
This is a nice bag,
it's
Seth.
not like, bro, that bag fucks hard. Thank you. Team did a really good job.
I hate that saying, by the way.
I love it. It's so arrogant.
Time for a new t-shirt.
This bag fucks. That's your t-shirt.
So the thing in life I look at, like, whenever you're dealing with anybody, like, not everybody is going to be built to be Terrance or a business owner. They might be a phenomenal coach. They might be, do great with children. So I think that the only way to find these things out is to go do them, and just whenever you're going to do it, do it to the best of your ability. You do that, wild shit will occur in your life.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys one last question that I'm curious about, because I'm kind of learning it. I feel like it's weird. Like, after I turned 35, I feel like every year I learn way more than I learned before. Before I was 35, I was just an arrogant asshole that thought I knew everything. And then after 35, I feel like I've opened my mind to all these fucking new things. So I feel like I'm learning now that anybody can run a business with some of these key principles. Like, any business can be successful with some of these key principles that we're talking about. Like, if you have a lot of integrity and you have a lot of honesty in what you're doing and you have a lot of hustle, it's almost like anything can work. People come up with, like, business ideas all the time and they're not willing to, like, try them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say anything will work, but I'm just mean, like, I feel like those are the two principles that could make anything really successful. Is that, do you guys kind of learn these things?
Yeah. And you have to have a product too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's more principles. I just feel like when I look at my business, right, there's obviously a lot of things, like you said, like there's, the product has to matter, everything, but, like, I feel like the everyday hustle and the pride and honesty that you put into your business, and that includes your products, obviously, is like the main things that drive it.
Yes, I agree with that to a certain extent. And that's what's kind of frustrating with the world today when you see fucking douchebags making a ton of money, doing a ton of stuff that you know is a scam. I think that's probably what you're alluding to. You're like, you know, to have a solid, proud, successful business, you just have to be, your integrity, not your image, but your vision of things. As long as it's a positive light, things will go well, and grind the shit out of it.
Wait,
You know, me, whenever I look at someone and I know, I'm like, man, fuck you, you're killing it. And I know you're an asshole. You know, we all know those things occur in this industry or in other industries too. Like, you know, that's where the whole used car salesman thing came from. Because you're like, yeah, that guy is a used car salesman, douchebag.
all right, so let's go around the horn before we go, and we'll just say, give like your top 3 principles for having a successful business or being successful in the industry, whichever you want to provide. So Ross, you want to go first?
I said it before, you got to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself, which not many people are. Honest to the consumer, and you have to have an honest product. You have to be authentic, because in today's age, we've talked about this a bunch of times, social media. I'm an owner, Seth's an owner, Fouad's an owner. The new way of business is the people have to know the owner.
Yeah.
Owners have to interact with the customers every day. We have to be vulnerable. We have to show that we are real people just like you. Like we're not perfect. We're real. And you have to work like you're obsessed.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah.
Okay. Seth, anything to add to that, or just those? Do you agree with those 3?
I agree. The honest with yourself is very important. I think that's probably like, just, you got to be very real with yourself and real with your people. Like, just being yourself to me is so important, that like you do not get lost, because we all get lost at certain times when good things and bad things happen. And whenever you're owning a business, it's just exemplified that much more. So I think, you know, being honest with yourself, your consumers, and a product, like you have to believe in your own product. Like you have to. And it doesn't matter. Like somebody could be like, bro, that shit tastes like shit. You're like, well, I like it. And so do the 10,000 other people that bought it. But then there's probably 10,000 people that are like, yeah, that shit sucked too.
Yeah.
But that's just the way of the world. You just have to be understanding, be honest, and yeah. I mean, like, that's why you have so many flavors of a product. People are like, well, I don't like vanilla. Bitch, I love vanilla.
Yeah.
You know, but as long as it's the vanilla that I believe in, or what is best for your consumers, that's what you should be aiming for.
Yeah. Terrance, anything you want to add?
Sorry, can I add? Terrance,
Sorry,
one more
Ross,
thing.
go ahead.
Focus on the people you want to be a part of your business. So what I mean by that is, the Flavor Gang is very, we like to market and Axe and Sledge is a very similar way. We like to have fun.
Yeah.
We like to push the boundaries of humor and professionalism with, innuendos and things that are not, acceptable, quote unquote. There's people that are not going to buy into that. There's people that are not going to love it. But then there's going to be so many people that do. Focus on those people and fuck the other people.
Wait a minute. Before Terrance, I just want to please, can I play this before you answer?
Yeah. Okay.
Just give me a second. Just one
All
second.
right.
I think this is what Ross is talking about.
Oh, jeez.
Oh gosh.
Hey, babe, you know what day it is?
It's fucking Monday, Ross.
No, it's Valentine's Day.
Shut the fuck up, Ross.
Come on.
Shut up. No
Come
means
on.
no.
Well, I've got a situation down here.
What's happening?
Oh, sweet Poppy. Happy Valentine's Day to me. Oh yeah, those poppy seeds.
What the fuck are you doing, Ross?
Hey babe, you know what day it is?
Way too much.
Dude.
I mean, I got to try it now. I got to try it.
It's got to taste good, right? If it doesn't taste good, you use it for something else.
It's my favorite shit.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I had to show that, Terrence. I didn't mean to interrupt the answer, but dude, some of the stuff I see you guys do over there, I'm like, how do you get away with this? Like, I can't fucking do that kind of shit.
I own this shit. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
It's a great point, though. Just like you said, you got to know who you're selling to.
Yeah.
Like you just you double down on your strengths, and you realize as time goes on the type of company that you are and your angle.
Yeah,
and I mean, I thought it was funny. Like, I'm like, I actually really got to try the sweet poppy sauce now.
And someone did, and someone will say that doesn't make me want to buy it.
Yeah. Well, it also goes to the point of being yourself. I mean, Ross, that's just kind of who you are. That's your humor, and that's
exactly.
Terrence, do you have anything to add to the 3 most important principles of being a coach, owning a business, anything like that?
I'll give it from an athlete's perspective. Definitely integrity. I'm not going to promote I love a lot of their products, but I'm not going to promote one of their products that I don't use. I don't use every one of their products, and you'll never see it on my page.
Yep.
Finding a company that you actually like. It's really hard. Like I mentor a lot of athletes. I had one, he signed with this company. I was like, and the first question I asked him, like, do you like this company? He hesitated. He signed the contract still. And then 3 months later, it was done because he's like, yeah, I didn't really like the products. I'm like, yeah, it's hard to sell shit you don't like, you know?
Yeah.
So, true. Huge. Always when you're in you're coming into, trying to sell things to your fans or coming into a business relationship with a company, the second thing I would say is look at it from a point of how can I provide value? Never look at it from like how much I can make from this person, how much I could take from this person, but how much can I offer this person? And if you have that mindset, the money's going to come. You provide a better product, more people are going to see that product, and you're going to be at a better spot. And then the last, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish. Sorry.
The last thing is just perseverance and grit. Like we said, it takes a while to get to a point where you're seeing, the fruits of your labor. It could take, some people are lucky, they get that quick fame and it happens really quick for them. But I've seen guys, I always go back to John. It took him decades to turn pro, I'm blessed enough where it happened so quickly. But even for me, I've only seen like financial success from this in the last 2 years, where I can honestly say, like, I'm in a good spot financially. I'm not worried about, the next bill coming up. Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 things I would say for me.
So I just want to add a couple things. So Terrence said, and then we'll wrap up. I just want to say, so as far as John goes, not only did it take him, X amount of shows to turn pro, I also remember him telling me stories about building his business. And from the very beginning, when he was like sending emails to each person each week, he didn't know how to send batch emails or anything. And he was like typing out each person's program. And like that Mountain Dog business was also a 10-year business before it became as big as it really was. Right. So I guess that's a perfect example of the patience it takes on either side, whether it be physique or business. And the second thing I want to touch on was when you said about providing value and not feeling entitled, but actually just being able to provide value for this company. I just want to give an example. So we have an athlete that will remain nameless for now, but we have an athlete that's on our team that goes above and beyond at all times. And I don't mean just in front and in social media, but I mean like behind the scenes as well. Some people think, well, why would you do that much? You're only getting paid for X. Why are you doing this other stuff? And you can't ever guarantee this, but what it says to me is, like Seth said, when he's done bodybuilding, I'll probably keep him on. He'll just be in the office instead of, in the gym. He'll be an athlete manager. He'll be a salesperson. He'll be something. It's just like, but this extra push for the company shows me that he really wants to be with the company. And that's somebody I want to stay with us long-term, not just like, oh, they're not competing anymore. See you later. So that extra effort that somebody gives your company can end up meaning more to you in the long run than just like, oh, I did more than I should have. I feel like I did too much. No, it could mean that you end up with a career after bodybuilding or whatever.
It's the and factor.
Well, explain that.
It's like you can do this and do that, which just doubles the value of someone.
Yeah. And there's no guarantee that it'll mean something, but it's never going to be a bad thing. So, all right, boys, is there anything else we want to leave with? Anybody else want to add anything to this?
Shout out to my wife, Elena. She's the best. I love you.
No, my wife's well, you can't. How my wife's the best? How can your wife be the best? No. Anybody else? No?
Shout out to Daniel. He's in the room over here. A video guy. He liked my YouTube page. He's doing all the work. He's working over there right now.
Does Seth, you want to shout out your wife as well?
Yeah, I love you, Hannah. Great sex today. Good.
Hannah knows you have like a butthole OnlyFans now, so
she's the one that takes the pictures. No, I think big thing for this is be yourself, and most important thing, don't be a piece of shit. It's simple concepts in life.
All right, we'll end on that.
This was great.
Okay, boys, thank you all for coming on, and we'll get this out as soon as possible. I'm sure everybody will enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and like the video. And if you get a chance, check out the description for all the different links to all the different places you can find Hostile and myself. And lastly, check out hostile.com for our new line of supplements and all of our apparel and gear. Thanks again for watching.